Uh, Good morning, or wherever you are joining us from. If you can hear me, can you just type yes in the comment section on the chat? You're welcome. You're welcome. Anytime from now. Welcome. Okay. Thank you very much. I can see the comments coming in effect. All right. So just I'm starting very shortly. Just very shortly. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Jeremiah, can you help us just share the link? Okay.
A
So,
minute, please.
Recording in progress.
A minute.
so we are going to just share the link in the comment section so that you can also share it with you. I mean, I'm talking about the YouTube link because we are actually live on YouTube right now, so that you can join us when it's 11 a.m. here. So we are starting anytime from now. So good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Peter Mercy. Good morning, Philip, Amy. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, good morning. All right. So you can just inform people about this meeting. The YouTube link, I think, it will be shared shortly in the chat. So those who are following can also join on YouTube. We are starting very shortly. You might just want to grab your PC, and if you would like to follow along, it's time for you to just set up and grab your PC so you can just follow us along. If you follow us along, it would be much better for you. Follow us along. And if you might not be able to follow the pace, that's not a problem. Since we are streaming on YouTube, you can go back to look at the video after maybe you want it at a slower pace. You can go back and check the video on YouTube so that you can still be up to speed. If you can hear me, can you just type yes in the comment section? I want to make sure that we're all together. Just like yes, comment section if you can hear me. Yes, okay. See one. Right, right. Okay, so that is the YouTube link there. The YouTube link. So you can just share it on your status, share it with your network, so they can just join in. So exactly what you are having here is what they are also going to be having on YouTube. So there's really no difference. So you can just share to them so they can also follow us live and we can start. So we'll be starting by Like 10 minutes past 11 West African time. So just to be sure that everyone is settled, and you can just jump right in into the business of the day. Okay. Um, for those who you will be looking for are not yet there to join in quickly, so we can get started immediately. Okay. I thank you for the responses. Peter Messi, yes, I can see you. I see your response. Thank you for the response. Okay, thank you for the response. Right. Okay, so we are starting 10 minutes past 11. So let's just give just a little more time for people to do so we don't leave them behind. Okay, so the audio is not clear. I think I'll increase my voice. So is the audio clearer now? Philip Adeni, is the audio better now? Is the audio much better? Yes, so probably you can just check your device. Okay, maybe it's the volume. So also, if you can't hear me clearly, it might be your network or your device that is having some challenges. So you can just quickly do that test. Be sure that everything is all set. So we have like about 4 minutes more and then we get started the meeting. Okay, right. So we have started. Right. So we have many of our people there on YouTube. So the Zoom room is meant to just be very, very few of us in the Zoom room, because of the space constraints. So many of the people who are joining us will be joining us from YouTube. Okay, right. So we are starting within 3 minutes to finish. It's 11:07. All right. I'll just share the YouTube link also. So I just shared the link. Was So that's a direct link to our meeting on YouTube. So you can just join us on YouTube for those that you want to invite to the meeting. Also, to join us in the meeting. Okay, so just about 2 minutes more and then we'll start. So you might just use this time to quickly set up your PC if you want to follow us on the computer. It might just be a very good time to quickly set up. Okay, So we start now. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us. Um, for this class, this training, Excel, MX Excel upgrade. And so this class is just a beginner-friendly guide to. Let me just put in my video. So this is actually a beginner-friendly guide that is supposed to assist you to become like very familiar with Excel. So it's for people who are just getting started with Excel. And if it's not like you are just getting started, if you have probably been using Excel before now, it's also a very good opportunity for you to you know really improve yourself. Maybe the way you learned Excel is not very smooth, and you really didn't follow a very good procedure. So it is also going to be a very good refresher for you to remind yourself of some of the things that you have been familiar with before now. And so that is just one thing that is going to help us in this class. So for people who are beginners and for people who are refreshers, you are in the right meeting. So very quickly, the class starting. So my name is Tiwalade Omotosho, and I'm the one that will be taking you through this meeting. And we don't plan to spend so much time. So please just pay attention and try to follow. And for the ones that you didn't get, you can also go back to the YouTube video. The link has been shared on the chat, and it's going to still be shared. You follow again if you actually miss some parts. So BSc from chemical engineering, and I've had some work experiences which has honed my skills. So it doesn't really matter whether you're from engineering, whether you're from finance. Excel is for everybody. And then I'm currently a data consultant at Data Experts, and I have about 10 years experience using Microsoft Excel. And I'll be assisted by my co-host, Mr. Jeremiah Adebeson, who will be answering some of your questions in the chat if I'm not going to attend to them. So he's also, chemical engineering background. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing special about chemical engineering and Excel. It's just a place. I mean, he's currently in Dangote Petroleum Refinery as a process engineer, and he has been using Excel for about 6 years. All right. So let's just, okay, yes, thank you, Mr. Jeremiah. So quickly, what is a spreadsheet? So quickly, so a spreadsheet is just a computer program. So we are starting from the scratch, before we just move very fast. So I'm just going to give you some introduction so that you can just understand the terminologies that is available here. So a spreadsheet is a computer program that can capture and display and manipulate data arranged in rows and columns. And so whenever you hear a spreadsheet, it doesn't necessarily have to be Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel is just an example of the spreadsheet software. So for people who, and for information, Microsoft Excel is a proprietary software. Proprietary software in the sense that you can only run Microsoft Excel within some environments, and which is Windows. So if you do not have a Windows computer, naturally you are not supposed to be able to use Microsoft Excel. So I'm talking about people who might be using like a Mac, that's like the Apple laptop, or people who might be using maybe a Linux. So normally you are not supposed to run Microsoft Excel, except maybe you are using Microsoft Excel online, which is very limited. So you really cannot do so much on Microsoft Excel outside Windows. And so, but it's just like one example of the spreadsheet software. And this class is just to help us address Microsoft Excel. And if you're actually good at Microsoft Excel, you can always transfer whatever you have learned in Microsoft Excel to some other places. And so example of spreadsheet softwares include Microsoft Excel, as you know, Google Sheets, And then you have LibreOffice. So Google Sheet is just one online, and LibreOffice is for people who use like the Linux OS. So this one is like the default, which can do quite a lot of things. But of all of them, Microsoft Excel is still the most powerful, and that is exactly what we will be looking at in this class to show you. I mean, how powerful is Microsoft Excel, and what can you really do with it? I mean the basic stuff. This is supposed to be a basic class, and what can you really get out of Microsoft Excel? So right now, I'll be switching over to my screen for my Microsoft Excel. I'll be switching over to my Microsoft Excel screen so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So let me know if you can see my Microsoft Excel screen. I'm going to be sharing my Microsoft Excel screen now. So if you can see my Microsoft Excel screen, can you just type yes in the chat? If you can see my Microsoft Excel screen, can you just type yes? So I just switched over to Microsoft Excel. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, I can see the comments. All right, so now this is just Microsoft Excel, and very quickly, some of the things that everyone should be familiar with on Microsoft Excel um, is just first things first. Whenever you're talking about Microsoft Excel and you see this interface, okay, you can see some of these boxes. Can you see my cursor? Can you see my cursor? Can you see it? You can see my cursor. Can you just type yes? Maybe I might have to change my entire screen. But let me know if you can see my cursor. Can you see my cursor? You just type yes in the comments. You can see my cursor. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So um, let me just share. I think let me just share my entire screen. Let me just leave it for now. Maybe when I need to go to that part, I will do that. Okay. All right. So let's get back to this. So Microsoft Excel, the very first thing that you should be very familiar with is the idea of a worksheet and a workbook. So basically, what is a workbook? A workbook is like an Excel file. So you see an Excel file, maybe it's .xlsx or .xls. That is basically like a workbook. It's just a workbook. It's just like a book, a workbook, just as the name is a workbook. And then you have a worksheet, which are some of these things here. And so if you look at this thing, this place I'm typing just at the bottom left of my screen, you can see here I'm having like a worksheet one. So that is basically like a worksheet. So you can create a worksheet using this plus arrow. So I'm actually assuming that we are using Microsoft Excel 2013 and above. If you are not using Microsoft Excel 2013, your interface would be a little bit different. Although my interface might be a little bit different because of this autosave feature and all that, because I'm using like the latest Excel, but it's not going to be different from your own if you are using 2013 and above. So please just take note of that. And so I talked about a workbook, and so we also have a worksheet. And so this is a worksheet. You can create a worksheet, which I'm doing, which is exactly what I'm doing. Worksheet one, worksheet two, sheet three, and the likes. So let me just share my entire screen because I might be switching from one place to another, and I just want you to be able to follow along. So I'm sharing my entire screen now. Okay, so I'll be sharing my entire screen. So I just talked about a workbook and a worksheet. And then that is just the very first thing you need to know about Microsoft Excel, that you have a workbook and you have a worksheet. So you might not need, sometimes you might be working on a document and you don't have to create more than one workbook, since you can do everything inside one place. So that is why you have a worksheet. And then just very quickly, another thing that we need to know on Microsoft Excel is that the worksheets you can like copy and paste, you know. So let me give you this example. So yeah, sometimes you have a worksheet on Microsoft Excel, a workbook rather, in Microsoft Excel, and it has about, let's say, like 40 worksheets. There are some people that deal with a lot of things, a lot of data, and they have about as much as 40 different worksheets. And you need to start going from one worksheet to another worksheet, which is extremely very stressful. And so what you do in that aspect is that, can you see like a red, I'm sharing my entire screen now. I'm sharing my entire screen now. So can you see like a red, can you see like a like red circle on my screen? So I just want to be sure that like you are following. So just so that I can know exactly where I'm function on my screen. Okay, very good. So anywhere you see that red circle is exactly where my mouse is. So just take note of that. So if you see red, it means that I am left using my left click. And if you see green, it means that I am using the right click. Let me take that again. So anytime you are on my screen, anytime you're looking at my screen right now, if you are seeing red, it means that I am clicking with the left button. And if you are seeing green, it means that I'm clicking with the right button. So just click with the right. So now, if you look at this place, you now have about 40 spreadsheets. What you naturally want to do is that you start scrolling one by one, and that might take a lot of time, especially if you are dealing from one place to another. So if you don't want to get into that, just right click here. Look at this place I am here. Just right click and you see all your spreadsheets in one place. So you can just go to wherever you want and press OK. So you can go to anywhere you want, just right click, go from sheet 1 to sheet 2 and all that. So that is another thing that you can save a lot of time on and stop wasting time jumping from one spreadsheet. So another thing you want to also know is how to copy spreadsheets. So sometimes you are working in an office and you have a colleague, and the colleague is saying that, hello, let me see somebody in our chat here. Philip, okay, so Philip, I want you to work on this spreadsheet and I want you to add it to this and this analysis or whatever, make the person the boss. And the person is telling you that, and you don't want to, some people might not really know how to copy it. So they start doing copy and paste from where place and they create a new spreadsheet. I mean, please let today be the last, or whenever you do that, let it be the last time you will have to do something like that. Because you can actually copy a spreadsheet on Excel. There's a function to do that. There's a provision to do that. And you can actually like move a spreadsheet a worksheet from one workbook to another. Let me just show you an example. So this is one spreadsheet that we are working on. Now let me go to another spreadsheet. Now look at this spreadsheet. It has a lot of data. So I have changed to another spreadsheet, another workbook, which has a spreadsheet called general data. If you can see it, can you just let me know? Can you just let us know? Like, can you type yes if you can see this spreadsheet I mean? So I moved to another spreadsheet. I just want to show you what I mean when I'm saying you can copy this. Thank you very much. So very quickly, now let's assume that there are some times when you actually need to copy a spreadsheet. Now let me give you an instance. So I have a spreadsheet, which is like the original data. And I want to play with some things on that spreadsheet. But you do not want to change the original data because you are not the only one that has access to it. So it is not right for you to change the original data. Please take note of that. So in that situation, it's actually advisable for you to duplicate that spreadsheet. And there are many ways to do that. Now, this is way number one. So on this worksheet here, which has the data, so I'm going to send some of these example files I'm using in this class. If you have registered for this class, and your email is correct, so some of the things that we have done in the class, I'm going to have to send it to your email. So that maybe you might want to practice alongside some of these things. So please just take note of that. So now I'm right clicking, you can see that it is green. So I right click. Now you can see it's green. So now I right click, you will see on this right click, you will see some things here. You see insert, delete, rename, move or copy, and stuff like that. So the one that interests us is actually move or copy. Move or copy. So this one is the basic way. So let's take move or copy. So now I want to copy this spreadsheet. because I do not want to alter the original spreadsheet for obvious reasons. It is the data we are using, and I don't want to change it so that I can do whatever I want to do. And maybe if I'm done, I can just delete it and forget about it. So you can see what I've done, create a copy, and then I'll click move to end. So I create that copy, okay, easily. You can see what has just happened. What has just happened is that the spreadsheet has been duplicated. So the spreadsheet has been duplicated, and that is amazing. So it means that I can do whatever I want to do. I can delete, I can change the color, I can do whatever I want to do. And I'm sure that this spreadsheet is okay. That is one thing that you should take note of. Another thing that you should take note of is, what if I want to move from one place to another? Now, what does that mean? It means that maybe somebody sent you a file in the office and you want to bring it from that worksheet to your own workbook. Maybe you are compiling data. Maybe some people do like collation, or people who are in the tax, accounting, world, finance, they do a lot of collation. And you just need to bring from that person's spreadsheet to your own. So one thing you can do is you can do what we call move or copy, depending on what you need. So copy, if you want to keep a copy in the former spreadsheet, the former workbook, and have your own copy. Move if you want to take it out completely. So let's go here. So I'm going to move. So I want to move this spreadsheet I just copied here, which is called general data 2. And from general data 2, I want to move it to my first spreadsheet, which is called Excel upgrade. So what I will do is that, and then you can also move it to an entirely new book if that is what you prefer. But for my own purpose, I am moving to the Excel upgrade. So Excel upgrade. So I want to move it to the end, and I want to move the sheet. So if I press OK, you can see here. So I have successfully moved my information from one spreadsheet to another. And that is basically, something that you should be very familiar with when you're working with Excel. So that is it. And then another way you can also copy is just to click control. Can you see the control I'm doing here? I'm sorry, let me just change the settings. Sorry. Okay, so you can see so can you see my screen here? Control, and let me change it to 0.5 seconds. I want you to be able to see my shortcuts. Just a minute. So can you see my shortcuts, the shortcut I'm pressing? I'm pressing control right now. Can you see it? If you can see, can you just type yes? I want you to be able to follow my shortcuts. Yes, great. You can just see my shortcut combination. So I'm pressing control now, and then I'll drag it to wherever I want to. So if I want to copy it after, I press control and then I drag it to the right. Then if I want to copy it before or something, I'll probably drag it to the left. So I want to copy this general data. I want to copy it here. Then let's do this. Can you see? Then I drag it. And there it is. So I just copied it. So you can try that on your own and see if it works for you. So you can just use a control and then you drag and then it also copies. So that's just another easy way to do some of these things. So that is basically in the worksheet and workbook, and you should just be very familiar with that. Another very interesting thing is that people have not really explored the power in Excel. And I tell you, if you have not explored it, you guys are missing out a lot. And what exactly is that? That is what I call the quick access toolbar. So this is a quick access toolbar. Now, all these things I see here, this save, redo, and all these things here, that is what they call the quick access toolbar on Microsoft Excel. The quick access toolbar. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. I want to be able to zoom in. Let me try to, sorry, I'm trying to do this zoom thing. Let me do control 0 for my zoom. Okay, so now let me just zoom in so you can see. So I have zoomed in now. Can you see my quick access toolbar? So look at, just follow my mouse, and for you to see it in a better view, I have zoomed in. So this is what they call the quick access toolbar on Excel. This part here at the top is a quick access toolbar. And what does the quick access toolbar do for you? Is that there are some times when you do some things very, very frequently on Microsoft Excel and you don't want to be going around looking for it. And so that is why they call it quick access, because those things I do very frequently, it's very advisable you put it here. And to do that, you will see something here called customize the quick access toolbar. I click on it, and then I go to maybe customize the quick access toolbar, and I can just put whatever I think is useful for me there. So let me do that, customize, or you can just do a right click. So that one way, by clicking here, if you look at this place here, you can see this thing here. If you click on it, you can use it to customize. Or if you prefer, you can right click and go to customize quick access toolbar. And once I do that right click, I can add so many things that I feel like I use often. So like for me now, I think I like to do a filter on Excel, which I'm still going to talk about later, add or remove filters, which is somehow difficult to find. So I prefer to have it in my quick access toolbar. So I'll go to add and I'll press OK. And as you can see here, it is already part of my quick access toolbar. So I can easily add my filter and remove it instead of going the route of data or looking for something that is over there that might waste a lot of time. So for people who are more concerned about doing their work very fast and efficiently, you can start thinking about putting some of the things I use very often, especially people in the finance world that they do a lot of things, like a lot of repetitions in their work, in their workflow. You might start really thinking about the quick access toolbar. And then another thing that we have here is called the ribbon. So some of these things I can see here, the home, the inserts, the page layout, the formulas, the data, the page layout, the formula, the data, the review, the view, the automate, and all other things like that. That is actually the ribbon, and which you are probably already familiar with. So you can also customize it. So for many of you, you will observe that you don't have this thing called developer in your own Excel. It's because I added it myself. And if you want to do that on your own, what you can do is that you can right click here, like I'm doing. So just right click. So once you right click, you right click at this top part. So you right click here. Let's say on this place, you right click on any of this menu. Maybe it is home, insert, page layout. You just right click on any of them. So you see something called customize the ribbon. Customize the ribbon. So when you try to customize the ribbon, you can add some other things. So it depends on what you do on Excel. So for people, let's say some people might not need all these things, but you might just look at some of these things later and you can add it. So for people who do like programming on Excel, you might need to have the developer tab. So let me remove it so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me remove it here. And you see that I've removed it. And I can also bring it back if I want. I think I would prefer it to be there. So let me put it there. That is actually the ribbon. So it's another very important thing that you should know when you're working, just so what we are doing now is that we are just getting familiar with Excel and trying to understand some of these things. And the reason is because by the time I go into the deeper parts, I do not want to leave anybody behind. So that is exactly why I'm trying to take my time to really explain this introductory part. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is the status bar. So if you look at this place here, it is what they call the status bar. So can you see the status bar? If you can see the status bar, this is where you can see the red part of my screen. That is the status bar. Can you just type yes? If you can see the status bar. So I'm going to just tell you what the status bar is all about, but I'm not going to use it now because it's not really part of the introductory aspect of this class. So can you see the status bar? The status bar is just here. Can you just type yes if you can see the status bar? So that's what I'm trying to show you now. We have the status bar. Okay. All right. All right, thank you. All right, so that is just it on introductory part of Excel. And that will lead us into the next part of Excel, which is working with data. So let me just go back to our sheet one. So so far we have done the introduction to the Excel, the worksheets, and well, even after you have been introduced to Excel, you are still going to work with data. And there are some people that, many of us actually, when we start with Excel, we are into data entry. Okay, so we are just, putting in data. Maybe you're working for your school or maybe for your class, and then you are typing in the attendance. Okay, so this is the number of people in the class, name, phone number, and department, age, the normal things that we all do on Microsoft Excel. I mean, many people that we start with, that's what we start with. But then, even as very basic as that is, you can actually do it in a much better way. And that is just why I'll just quickly show us some of the things that you need to know when working with data in Excel. So, this class is all about upgrading your skills in Excel. So I'll be doing a lot of what people have been doing and how they should actually be doing it. I'll be doing a lot of that. I'll be doing a lot of that. So just to be sure that you are following. So working with data. So let's just start. Let me just type some data here. Name, phone number, department, or let me just put, what data should I put? Can you just suggest, can people just suggest in the section, like, what should be in our information? Please, let's just suggest. So I have name, phone. What should we do? I need ideas for me. Okay, so someone is saying home address. Someone is saying home address. Gender. Okay. One is saying gender. I need one more, and then that is it. One more, and then we stop there. Okay, email. Don't worry. I think I put that on email. All right. So thank you for the contribution. So let's just quickly do that. Okay. So I'll just quickly show you that one. Name, and name. So let's put name. Um, let me put Jeremiah, my co-host, and then phone number. Now, there is something that many of you have observed on Excel. If you have observed this thing, whether you're on YouTube, okay, sorry that we I think we just leave this one. So now I want to point your attention to something right now. Whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Zoom, there is something that people do on Excel that you find out that how come this is happening to me. So whenever you type in your phone number on Excel, you type in your phone number normally. So let's say 070-123-456. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, 7, 8. So you type in your phone number on Excel, but by the time you save it, or maybe by the time you take it to another cell, you find out that the zero is missing. How many of you have actually observed that, like, before? And you kind of wonder why it's always happening like that. Can you just type yes in the comment section? I want to be sure that this is a problem that people have actually, people are actually used to. You just find out that there has a zero gone to, and then you are like, this is not the phone number I put there. And it can be very annoying sometimes. Can be very annoying. Okay, yeah, many more challenges. Okay, like something saying that many more challenges. Home address. Let's just put Nigeria. I think Nigeria. Gender, male, email, abc@gmail.com. Okay, great. Now, the reason, let me just tell you why that is happening to you, wherever you are joining us from. The reason is because Microsoft Excel, it's automatically tries to determine the type of data. So I did not mention that because, there is just so much we can talk about in Excel, and we can't talk about everything. But something that you need to know is that we have different types of data in Excel. If you can see my own tab here, have different type of data. We have general, we have number, we have currency, we have accounting, date, time, percentage, fraction, scientific, whatever. We have so many types of data. But what Excel does, Excel is done to be user friendly. It's not like some other softwares that they expect you to be a bit advanced. Excel, they try to help you a bit. And in that aspect, what I'm trying to say here is that it's because you have typed in 070. Normally, when you are typing a number, a radded file, I probably do not understand what you mean by a radded file. So like a number, a number is not supposed to start with 0. I mean, do you agree with me? Like normally when you're typing a number, like how many people are in the class? 50 people. You don't write 050. You actually write 50. Or you don't write like how much is my money? Probably you're buying a book or you're buying a laptop, and they say that okay, the laptop is 200,000 naira or 200,000 whatever currency. You do not say that 020. I mean, you write the number as you're supposed to write the number. Okay, okay, all right. Oh, okay, okay. Thank you. I think I see that. So the reason is because, let us go straight to the point, is because Excel thinks that this is a number, but in actual fact, it is a text, not a number. So next time you are typing in numbers into Excel, you have to start it with the single column. So Mr. Jeremiah, can you just type it like a single quotation mark? Can you just type it for us inside the chat so people can see what I'm talking about? So whenever you are typing a phone number, to avoid that, next time you start it with a single quotation mark so that you can, so Excel will be sure that you are not typing it just a number, but you are typing in the text that you want to preserve. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. 0703, that's 4. So we have 7 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So as you can see here now, can you observe that the 0 was preserved? If you can see that, can you just type yes? Can you just type yes? Whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Zoom, it doesn't matter. Can you just type yes? Oh, great. All right. So basically, so next time, just take note of that. Whenever you're typing the phone number, just be sure that you are, working with that and you ensure that you preserve it. All right, so now let's move on to the next one. So the next thing I want to talk about, I'm just going to be very practical in this class, and then probably explain 1 or 2 things as I go along. So I've talked about phone number. Another thing that you should be very familiar with is so many of us might need to work with a very long data in Excel. So I'm still working on the basic parts. So let me just quickly handle these parts before I move into the formulas. So now this is what I'm saying. So many of us, we are working with a lot of data in Excel. So if you actually, so let's do like, let's take a statistic. Like if you work with normally more than like 100 records, or let me just say more than 500 records in your workplace or wherever you do, if you normally will work with more than 500 records, can you just type in yes in the chat? Let's see if you have people, work with. Well, that's not big data, but it's a bit large in terms of Excel. Like so, because this next thing I'm about to talk about applies to your work. So if you will be working with about like more than 500 records of data, and you just type yes, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Zoom, can you just type yes if you might be working with quite a large number of data, maybe at least, or let's say 200 and above. Let's put it that way. Like 200 and above. That's quite a bit large. And whenever you're working with that kind of data, one thing that can be very annoying sometimes is whenever you are scrolling, you can easily lose track of what you are doing in Excel. So like for instance now, so I can only see 25 rows at once here. And it means that whenever I scroll away from this screen, I cannot really understand, except I'm familiar with the data, I might not be able to understand what this is talking about or what this is supposed to be talking about. And in that situation, what you actually need to do is to go to your settings. So let's go to like view. So I was talking about ribbon, and in the ribbon, I have home, I have inserts, I have page layout, I have formulas, I have data, I have review, and then where I'm actually going to is view. And so next time, what you should actually do is that you should freeze. You should freeze the panes. Like this, freeze the pan. Is it panes or pans now? If you actually freeze it. So from here, what is actually very useful to us is to freeze the top row. Is to freeze the top row. So what I can do now is that I'll freeze the top row. And now that I've frozen the top row, it means that as I actually scroll, I'm not going to lose track of what I'm scrolling at. So I know that this is talking about age, attrition, business travel, department, distance from home, education. So whenever you're working with a large data, you should learn and make it like a practice to freeze the row and the column. Now, another thing I also want to show you is that sometimes you find yourself, working with a lot of data in Excel. And I want you to pay attention to my shortcuts. So that is why I am allowing you to see, what I'm pressing on my keyboard combination. So because these shortcuts are the things that if you actually become very familiar with them, it will help you a lot. It will help you a lot. Save unnecessary time using your mouse and your keyboard. So very quickly, now look at what we are doing here. So what if I just want to jump to my last row? I want to jump to my last row. Let me even ask you a question. Let me go back to my former spreadsheets. Let's do like this if you actually know about Excel. Let me see. I want to see if you're going to get it. So how many rows are in Excel? Please don't use the internet now. Let's see. Let's see. Do you have an idea of how many rows are there in Excel? Can you just let me see your answers in the comment section? How many rows of data are in Excel? How many rows? I want the specific. I don't want about. No, I want the specific. I want a specific number. Now, okay, someone is saying 999. Someone is saying infinity. I'm seeing very interesting answers here. I mean, whether you're on YouTube or Zoom, I want to see what is your answer. Like, how many rows are in Excel? How many rows are in Excel? Okay. So let me see more answers. More answers before I tell you the answer. We are going to see it ourselves. Okay. Now, how do I, because someone is saying infinity, and the reason why the person said infinity is because for you to scroll down, it will take like forever to scroll down to the last cell, forever it will take to scroll down. Actually, you don't need to do that. So there's a shortcut. Oh, someone is saying infinity. Well, I am glad to announce to you that you are all wrong. The one that said 999, the one that said infinity, you all got it wrong. You all got it wrong. Or before I even tell you the answer, like how many columns do you think are really on Excel? How many columns do you think are on it? Let me see if you have. Or okay, you know what? Don't tell me the exact number. Take a rough guess, like about how many columns do you think are on Excel? The answer to this question will really, help you understand the next thing I'm about to do because it will actually help you a lot when you're working with so much data. How many columns do you think are in Excel? Okay, someone said someone is saying 26. Maybe because the one that you have been working with all this while has been very small data. That's why I think it's 26. Okay, so they are actually not 26 columns in Excel, and they are not 999, or rows in Excel. So whenever you want to jump in Excel, like let's say I'm on my first row and I just want to jump to the last row immediately. The shortcut for that is Control down arrow. Now listen to me again. I want to jump from my first row immediately to my last row without scrolling. The shortcut for that is just Control down arrow easily. And so the answer is that there are 1,048,576 rows in Excel. So let me show you that. So you can see here, so there are actually 1 million, 1 million, yes, 1,048,000 and 576 rows in Excel. And how many columns are there in Excel? So the same thing applies. So let me go back. So if you want to jump back to the top, the same thing, just in the opposite direction. I think you didn't type it well, oh, Mr. Jeremiah. I think it's 141048576. Okay, so now let's say I want to jump back to the first row. I've come to the last one. I can't start scrolling. Or there are some people that even use all these things. You don't need to waste your time doing all this. It's actually a waste of time. So what you can just do is just to go control down to go to the top to the last. And if it is in another scenario, what you need to do is just to jump. Well, what is actually doing is that it is jumping to the last non-empty row. I will explain what that means. So control up, I've jumped to the first non-empty row within that range. All right. So, and that is it. So, and then the same thing applies if I want to see what is actually like the last column on Excel. All I just need to do is just use like control right. And that's it. So they are whatever that number means, XFD. So XFD is um, the last row in Excel. So that's a lot. So I think that's about maybe 16,000 or whatever. I mean, there are way more than 10,000 columns in Excel. But let me just give you an advice. Once your Excel is getting more than 10,000 columns, I mean, I say 10,000, like 10,000 rows, or maybe 100,000, that range, you are going to be having a very, very slow software. So you need to be able to balance. So if you don't need to store everything inside one workbook, maybe you need to use multiple workbooks, it will help depending on how powerful your computer is. So please take note of that. So control right to see the right. So control right to see the right, control left to go back, down, control right, whatever. So that is one aspect. Now, another aspect is, what of if I want to start selecting? So now let me go to general data. So let me go back to general data. Now we are going into the very interesting stuff already. We have done so much of the basics. So let's go into the more interesting stuff, right? Now, what if I want to see the last one? I told you about jumping from one place to another. So if I use that same control down here, it will just jump to the last row. So here, my data is telling me that I have 4,411 rows because it is jumping down to the last. For those that cannot see it, let me just put it here for you. You can see 4,411 rows. So it is just jumped down to the last non-empty row before the next space. It is just going to jump to it. And so you can see it is jumping to the right, jumping to wherever you want it to be easily. To jump there, to jump there, to jump here, wherever you want it to be. Now, that is one aspect where you can increase your speed. Another thing is that there are some times when you want to select on Excel, and what you do normally is that you use your mouse to select. I mean, this is what many of you do. You go like this, go like this, go like this. In fact, let me just say a sign that you are not using Excel the right way. If you find yourself using your mouse most of the time on Excel, can I tell you the truth? You probably are wasting some amount of time, on Excel when you could have actually been faster. If you find yourself using your mouse most of the time. So what you actually are supposed to do in this situation is that you just go ahead and very easily you can start scrolling, So you use your shift. So now I talked about jumping using control. Now, if you want to actually highlight, what you use is your shift. So let us say I want to highlight age, attrition, business travel departments. So I'm holding my sheet right now. As you can see on my screen, I'm holding my sheet. So once I'm holding my sheet, then I'll just start moving in the direction using my arrows to wherever I want to. So you can see I'm moving right, down, 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 left, right, whatever way I'm moving, whatever way I'm moving, whatever way I'm doing it, and then it will be selecting it. And that is one very, very easy way to select precisely, because there are sometimes maybe your mouse is not very good and then it will have selected another thing. Before you click the mouse again, the thing has gone away and then you are just battling with it. Please, let's today be the last time you do that. You can use your shift. Another thing that you should also take note of is that you can actually now select like maybe a lot of things at the same time by using now, if you now combine that control with that shift and that direction, you can now select so many things at the same time. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I press Control Shift right, I can select everything in that direction, down, select everything. So within like 1 second, I can select everything I want to select. Or maybe say I want to select from here, I can just select and just do whatever I want easily. You can just select it. Or maybe you want to select everything in a row, you can use this, you can use this. You can just click on the row number to select everything in that row, or you can click on the column number, you can select everything in that column. And then another shortcut is, you can just use maybe control space, you know, you can use control space. Let me just see, I hope it's going to show that. Control space will select everything in that column. So let us say I want to select everything in column E, and I want to just delete it. All I just need to do is just to use control space to select it. Or if I want to select everything along that row, shift space, and then to select it. So these are some of the shortcuts that you might just, start trying out and see how, it can improve your workflow, very, very quickly. And so that is just something that, if you have not been doing before, you might start considering doing them. And another thing I also want to talk about is the cell address on Excel. So let me just ask, how many of you know what they call the cell address on Excel? Have you heard about it before? If you have, if you are just hearing about it for the first time, can you just type yes? Let me be sure that let me just get a brief statistic, of if you are, oh wow, really? Oh, well, okay. Something was saying, I'm just saying for the first time, the cell address. Okay, so this is about the cell address on Excel. Now, whenever you see in Excel, anywhere you want to go on Excel spreadsheets, there is something that you should be aware of. It will have a letter or letters as it applies, and it will have a number. So the letter is telling you the column that it is there, and then the number is telling you the row. And so by the time you combine it together, that is what you call the cell address. So the cell address is the combination of the column, letter, and the row number. So do you understand that now? You understand that now about the cell address? Can you just type yes if you get what I'm talking about? Okay. Okay, so I think I move on. So uh so like let me just so like for instance now, the reason why, so as I'm putting my mouse on this part, here I have this N and I have this 14 here, you can see here, if you look at this place here, where my mouse is currently hovering around, look at this place where my mouse is, this N14, it is actually what is called the cell address. That N14 is actually called the cell address. So anywhere I click on within the spreadsheet, this place is what will tell me what the cell address is, where I am currently at. So let's say I click anywhere on my screen, that is going to tell you that, okay, this is where you are, this is the cell address, that place. And you should actually take note of it because I will tell you the reason. So let's say maybe you are going to scroll to a place and you don't want to waste your time scrolling, but you have an idea that, okay, this data I'm looking for is around maybe the row 100, for instance. Okay, I say, okay, this data is around row 100. And I don't know which column, but I know it's around row 100. This is what you are going to do. So let me go and freeze my first row. Freeze the top row. So what I can just do is that I can just go here and type A for the column and 100 for the row number. And if you see what has happened here, it will take me directly to that place, which is the cell address. So I repeat myself. So there are some times when you just want to go to a particular cell on Excel, You want to go to a particular cell on Excel, and that particular cell on Excel, you don't have so much time to be scrolling and scrolling. Maybe the cell is even very far away. What you can actually do is to go to the cell address. So let's say I want to go to like row 1000, which will take me almost forever to scroll to. So I can just type A1000 here, and it take me there immediately. So which is like the cell address which I've utilized. So whenever you are doing that, by the time you get the formulas, it will become more useful for you to understand what it means to work with the cell address. By the time you get to the formulas aspect, working with the cell address is really very important to work with the cell address. So I'm actually following, there are some tasks that I want us to do because it will actually emphasize what I'm talking about here. And so we have talked about, putting the phone number properly, the home address, the gender, and the likes. Now, there's another thing that some of you have been missing out on Excel. And let me just give you this advice, for people who normally collect data and you're doing data entry on Excel. Whenever you have a data that there can be a bit of controversy. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Now, how do you type your name? Let's see, just understand what I'm talking about. Do you type your surname before your first name, or do you type your first name before your surname? How do you do it? Because even the registration, I saw that some people even still, mix the thing up. So how do you do it in your own case? Or how do you prefer? Let me just put that way. How do you prefer? Do you prefer that your surname is coming first, and then you now type your name, or you first of all type your name before your surname? How do you prefer it? Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at someone is saying that first name first, surname or last name. I'm looking at the answers, interesting answers. So I'm just monitoring your answers. I want to actually see, what you are really, how you really look at things. Okay, somebody is saying first name before surname. I've not seen surname before first name, but there are some people that did that, or is it like they're not in the meeting today? Okay, somebody is saying surname first before the first name. Okay, now, hey, I'm looking for people like you. I'm, I'm looking for people like you. Okay, so now, okay, okay, now this is where I'm going. But whenever you're working with the data, consistency is very important, and that is why even when I was designing the form that we use for registration, I did not ask you to type your full name. I asked you to type your first name and your surname. That's because so that whenever I want to process it, I can use any arrangement I want. Whether I want the surname to come first before the first name, or I want the first name to come before the surname. Now, without wasting much time, let's just quickly do a practical example. So let me write first name and surname. And then so let me just put some names here. Let me just write Peter, Mercy. I'm just assuming that this is your, I mean, please, if I didn't get it, just pardon me. Just pardon me if I didn't get it. Philip, Ade, let me also write John Kelvin. Let me write Jeremiah, Ade, Besson. Which other name should I write again? And then just write the last name. Let me just write my name. Good. So now that I have put in this, now you are collecting your data and you need their full name to be stored, not their first name and surname separately, but you don't want people to confuse you. So that's why you didn't ask them to type in their full name. So let's say full name here. Now, let us assume that you have like 1,000 records. You cannot start typing everything manually because I know there are some people that do that. Now, you want to join the first name with the surname as it is supposed to be. How do you go about it? And that is exactly why I want to introduce another concept on Excel called the flash fill. So let me just type it in the comment section, or let me just type it here. We call it the flash fill. So that thing is very, very powerful. And if you are working in data entry, if you have not been using it, you are missing out a lot. Flash fill, this is what flash fill will do. Flash fill will need an example, and anything you have done in that example, Excel will intelligently repeat it for you. Now, this is exactly what flash fill is doing. Let me go find out. If you are hearing about flash fill for the first time, whether you're on YouTube or whether you are on Zoom, can you just type yes? I want to see if you're actually hearing for the first time, or maybe that okay, if you're actually hearing flash fill for the first time. Wow. Okay, now this is how you locate flash fill. So now let us go. There are two ways for you to locate flash fill. So if you look at this place, I am on home. Okay, I am on home right now. And from home, what you can do is that you go to the field. Okay, so I am on home right now. From home, you go to the field, and from that field, you will see flash fill. How many of you can see flash fill on my screen right now? If you can see flash fill, can you let me know? You can see flash fill on my screen. So can you see flash fill on my screen? So that is from home, you go to fill, and then you should see flash fill. Great. So that flash fill that you have been seeing all this while, this is actually how it is supposed to be used. Now let us do something here. So I'll write Excel. This is the example I want you to use. Peter Mercy. Now I've given Excel the example to use of the first thing, like, okay, this is how I want it to be, Peter Mercy. Then I will now tell Excel that finish the work for me. And Excel will say, okay, yeah, fine. Then go to flash fill. So I have typed in my first example, and then the next thing I'll do is I'll press flash fill. And Excel will finish the work for you because it has understood your first example. Is that not simple enough? If you actually understand what I just did, then just type yes. So that is actually how you can use flash fill. I mean, it's very powerful. How you can use flash fill. And so you should, if you are working with data entry, you should start thinking of flash fill. Now let's think of another way. So let us say like you have like, so there are some people who are working in like maybe sales, and in your sales, maybe you have like maybe like a sales record or something, and maybe it has a particular pattern. Let's say like NGN. Let's say it has a pattern like NGN. Let's say the data came like NGN 10456, JPY 78954. What should I do again? Maybe ABC 5478 THY, whatever. Let me just put in some random numbers. Now there's another, so that's flash fill. The concept is very simple. Give Excel the first example, and Excel will finish the work for you. So maybe you can give two examples if that's what you prefer. Or let me just give you two examples. LKJ, let me just say LKJ, LKJ, LKJ like 78945, and TUV 4321. Okay, I just put in some very random things. Now let's look at flash fill again. So I give Excel examples to follow for NGN and JPY, JGY, ZJGY, JGY. Can you see what is going on here? So Excel, I'm telling Excel that extract. So without necessarily writing in formula, because there are some people that you always think that everything that you need to process on Excel needs formula. It doesn't actually work that way. You don't need formula every time in Excel. You only need formula when it is necessary. So easily, I just go straight, I go back to flash fill, and easily Excel will do the stuff for me because I've given it an example. So you can just be creative about it and you figure out how it works yourself. So that is something about flash fill that you should be very familiar with on Excel. Another thing I want to talk about, so I'm still talking about like data entry. I want to spend my time on data entry because data entry is a place on Excel that so many people waste so much time, unnecessarily when they could have done things in a better way. So the last thing I want to talk about is, before I move on to another aspect of this class, is that um, I want to talk about this thing called filters, sorts, and some of you know it already. I want to talk about filters, sort, and conditional formatting. So how many of you are hearing about conditional formatting for the first time? Can you just type in yes in the comment section? Or yeah, if you are hearing conditional formatting for the first time, let me just see if I'm talking to the right audience. Okay, so another thing that you guys have been missing out of, this is the Excel upgrade, and with Excel upgrade, you should actually try to do things in a more efficient manner so that you can actually save a lot of time. And some of these things I'm telling you, you are going to appreciate it by the time you are working with a lot of data. Now imagine that you are supposed to work in an office for 8 hours a day, and for every 1 hour, for some of these things that you have learned, you are saving about 20 minutes. So it means that if you are going to work for 8 hours, you have saved 160 minutes. So by the time you scale up these things, you will see that it's a lot of things for you to really want to understand and perfect. So now let's go straight to our data we have been using. So there are some times, so I'm going to control home as usual. I jump to the first place. So there are some times when you're working on Excel and you find out something on Excel, So please, we are streaming live on YouTube. We have wonderful, amazing people who are also following us on YouTube. And Mr. Jeremiah, please, you can also share the link with them on YouTube. I mean, with our chat here, so that they can tell them to join us on YouTube, so you can also follow. And if you want to go back to some of the things you have talked about in class, not a problem. You can also watch it again on YouTube if you want to look at it as a slower pace. All right, so now something I do on Excel very frequently is that you might want to filter on Excel. And I told you something about the quick, let me just recap on that. I told you something about the quick access toolbar. That's the QAT. And I told you that if you will do some things very often on Excel, it is very important that you keep it in a place where you can easily find it. And what I did here was that I did a right click here, and then I went to customize quick access toolbar. And it was from there I added this filter here. And once I added the filter, it is the reason why I can easily use it here. Normally, this is not where I will find it, so that you are not going to look at your Excel and you are wondering that where did the filter go to? I was the one that added it just now. If you want to use a filter, you go to your data and then you click on filter and then you find it. But then that is maybe a long method. So another thing that you should also learn is, what if I want to just filter from Excel and I need a shortcut to do this thing like snap of my fingers? Then there is the shortcut I like to use a lot. It saves me a lot of time. I just press Ctrl Shift L, and then it will do the filter for me. So let me show you again. Ctrl Shift L removes the filter. Ctrl Shift, let me just put there. Ctrl Shift L will add the filter. And so I just add the filter, and filter is a very important thing for you in Excel because it helps you to understand what is inside your data without having to scroll through the data. You can't actually scroll through everything and inspect your data one by one. But by using the filter, you can quickly have an idea of, okay, in this data, oh, there are just three things there: human resources, research, sales. Okay, in this data, there are these things here. in this data, nothing is changing. Okay, just everything is the same thing here, and stuff like that. And so instead of going to put the filter there, wasting time and all that, it is very advisable to use a shortcut like autofill. Now, let me just show you another thing on Excel that people might not have been familiar with, or people probably know already and they are not using it the right way. So let's do something. Do you have an idea that on Excel, sometimes you need to remove duplicates? So when I was sending out the emails to the people that came here, maybe some people had network challenges. And so because of that, they actually registered twice. I have some people like that that they registered twice. The same, like maybe the same information duplicated about 2 times or maybe 3 times. I think they probably have things like that. It's actually a very common thing in data. And whenever you're working with data, you want to avoid things like that. And so that's why sometimes you want to remove duplicates. So let us do something very interesting. So let me copy all these names here. And let me copy all these names here and let's use it on sheet 2. So now I am on sheet 2, another worksheet, and then I'm copying all the names here. Okay, I'm copying all the names here. And then I am adding a number to it. So another thing I quickly want to chip in on Excel is that when you're on Excel and let me just ask a question. How many times have you been on Excel and you be like, I want to type from, maybe you are doing like a series and you need like a serial number, like maybe number 1 to number 100. And you actually now start typing it one by one, one by one. How many of you actually do things like that? Like there's no shame here, okay? I mean, today's going to be your last day because you're in this class. But how many of you actually do that? Like you want to type in a number on Excel and you actually now start typing it like want to type like a series of numbers, start typing one after the other. How many of you actually do something like that? Like I need number 1 to 100. And then you start. Oh, are you serious? Oh, just imagine. I mean, I'm actually like this is actually real because there are some people I can see yes, some say I did, yes, and all that. Please and please, let today be the last. Oh, okay, you have not. In case you have done it today, let today last. You ever do that because you are with by doing that. And so, what you actually are supposed to do in a situation like that is there is something you are calling on Excel, the field series. So on Excel, that field series, it will help you to generate a list as you want it. So now I want a list of, let's say like I need a list of, okay, I want to do like from number 1 to, let's say number 1 to number 15, maybe. I'm trying to look at which number is, okay, let's say, maybe say I'm doing like from number 1 to number 10. And I need like a list, I need like a list. What I will encourage you to start doing from today is something they call like field series. Now, the first thing that you need to do is you type in the first example. So the first example is 1 because that is what is starting the series. Once you have done that, the rest is easy. So I go to field, that same field. Now, if you can see it here, let me put this thing here. So this is where I'm going to fill on this home tab, here, on this home tab. Then I go to fill. So from that place, you can see something they call series. How many of you can see that series on my screen? Let me be sure that you are with me. Like if you can see that series, please just type yes, then I need to move on. Great. So yes, okay, you are following. Great. So now from that series, I click on that series, and then you will see something here called rows and columns. So I move here to columns. So rows is if you want to fill it from left to right. Columns is if you want to fill it from top to down. But the one that is my own concern is filling it from top to down. And that is exactly what the fill series is meant for, filling from the top to the bottom. Now, what I need to do is just I go to columns. Then I want you to be increasing by what? 1. I want it to move from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I want it to increase by 1. And then I want it to stop at 15. I say stop at 15. Done. So please, that is how you create a series on Excel. Just series of numbers. So maybe you are a student here, or maybe you are doing a data entry work and you need like, or maybe you're opening hospital and you need list of things here. Like that is just a very, very straightforward and easy way to do that. How many of you caught that? How many of you like saw what I did just now? You understand that? And just like yes, and then we move on. So I'm actually, yeah, great. But I'm actually going, so that's not this, that one is just by the wayside. This is where I'm going. Now I'm going into having to duplicate. Okay, so I am duplicating these things here. Now, now there is something that you need to be aware of. Like sometimes, if you look at this information here, it contains duplicates. And I was saying that are not things that duplicates are things that you do not want to start seeing. Okay, someone just say, just tried it on Excel and it worked. Congratulations for those that have tried it and it has worked. Please stick to it and start incorporating this your work. But where I'm going is that you do not like to have duplicate. And if you look at this place here, I have duplicated these names. So one thing that you can first of all do is to, let's say, like easily what people do is that, let's say I will highlight here. So I just highlight easily here. Then I go to data. Then around here, you will see some of these names here. You can see names, get and transform data, quiz and connection data types, sort and filter. But what I'm looking for is data tools. And then there is something here. I don't know if this is how your Excel looks like, but it should look something very similar to this. So I will go to remove duplicates. And I'll say Excel, okay, my duplicates are in column B and column C. So I remove column A and easily Excel removes the duplicates. But that thing, what I just did now, is very good. And you might find situations where it is good to use it. But you have to be very careful when you are removing duplicates on Excel, because it is not every data that is duplicated that is actually wrong. Let me tell you something, for instance, now. Like, it is very possible that more than one person has your first name. It's very possible that more than one person has your surname. It is very possible that more than one person even has your first name and your surname combination. It is very possible. And so if you are not working on a very large data and you're working on a very small data, sometimes removing duplicates just straight is not advisable. So what you do in that situation that is advised is this. So let's do something. Let's say Peter Messi. Let's call it phone number. Let's assume that there are different Peter Messis existing. So let me call this surname, and let me call this first name. We're actually gradually getting to the climax, and let me call this serial number. So let me call this phone number. Let's assume that they're actually different Peter Messi, or let me call this gender. Let's call this like gender. Let's call this gender. So let's call this Peter Messi male. Please, if Peter Messi is not a male, apologies, please. It's just for example. So let's call this one female, male, whatever. It's just for an example, please. It's just for an example. Male, male. I'm just giving a random gender. So let's say this Peter Messi is a female, 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 male, male, female, 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 male, male, female. Okay, now this is where I'm going. So if you go ahead and remove duplicates by by this one, you might make a mistake. Now, another reason is because sometimes some duplicates might be because of data entry errors. So you don't just want to remove duplicates just straightforward like that. What you want to do is that you want to flag them. So what you are going to do is you go to conditional formatting. and you might just flag. So let's say you have done your full name. Let's say you have done your full name. Let's say you have done your full name, for example, and let's say this is Peter Mercy. Okay, let's say this is Peter Mercy, and this is after you've done that. Let me go to my field, and then I have my flash field. So I've put in all my names, and then I'm finding out that how come, okay, sorry, let me put Philip Adeniyi. So there are sometimes that flash field might not work appropriately, so you might need to increase the number of examples that you have used. Okay, like that, like that. You might need to increase the number of examples that you are using. Okay, so it has corrected it. It was having a mistake before, so I had to increase the number of examples and then it worked. So quickly, let us assume that I observed that how come there are more than one Peter Messi in my data? If I just go and remove the name, I would make a mistake because the Peter Messis are actually not the same gender. So what I will do is that I will go here and I will go and do something called conditional formatting. So you can explore that on your own. So I go to highlight rules, then I go to duplicate values. Duplicate values. So everything is a duplicate value, duplicate value and all that. Some of those things like that, and where I can actually now start, like if there are actually a lot of data, it's because everything here is a duplicate. But let us assume that all of them are not duplicates. For instance, let's assume that I've added some other names in between that are not duplicates. Okay, let's just put in some names in between. Philip, 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 Philip John. Let me just put Philip John here. Something like that and like that. But just get what I'm trying to say. In this scenario, you can easily now go and do your filter, and then you filter by color, such that everything that you are seeing are just duplicated value, and then you can now monitor it one by one and see that what is really happening before you go ahead and delete it. If you go ahead and just remove your duplicate, you might go and remove this Peter Mercy here that is actually a female, thinking it's the same Peter Mercy that is the male. So please don't go ahead and remove your data just like that. You can start trying to use something like conditional formatting. First of all, identify the duplicate values before you go ahead and remove it. And something like that are things that you might want to be very, very familiar with when you're working with data. So let me just quickly give you a quick recap. I talked about phone numbers, how you put in your phone numbers so you don't have to use your zero in front of it. I talked about freezing and unfreezing again. I talked about maximizing the cell address. I talked about combining the filter. And then I also talked about first name, flash fill, and all those things. And maybe let's talk about formulas a bit. And I would just show you some of the things that you need to know about formulas in Excel. Okay? So let me just show you some of the things that you need to know in Excel formulas. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I'm just coming here. Excel formulas. Yeah. Okay, so now these are Excel formulas. Okay, I just want to introduce Excel formula before I go ahead and talk about it in detail. So these are the basic things you need to know in Excel about formulas. And I will say that 90% of users on Excel will have something to do with formulas at any time of their workflow. And so if you actually do not know about formulas on Excel, you might not really be able to do anything on it. In all fairness, you might really not be able to do anything with it if you don't understand how formula works on Excel. And so one thing that I need to talk about in that aspect is that knowing formulas in this way I'm going to teach you will help you a lot better than just learning the formula. Okay, I want to do this on Excel, then I go and learn how to do it. You would not really understand how it works. So straight to the point, formulas are general expressions that combine cell reference, operators like maybe it's plus, minus, star, whatever, and functions to produce a result. And function on Excel, some of you might have seen things on Excel like sum, product, average, they're just built-in formulas that perform a specific task. So it means that some of those things that functions do in Excel, you might actually be able to do them without using a function. But function makes it easier to do. So this is a rule of thumb in Excel. If there is already a function that can do something on Excel, do not bother to be creative. Just use the function. But the main problem of people on Excel, I will tell you, is that what function am I going to use to do this? And what function am I going to use to do that? So that is actually where the problem is, not really knowing which function does what. And even if you eventually find out the function, how do I even use this function? It's another issue that people don't seem to figure out. Okay, so going back to this, so on this place, every formula in Excel should contain some very basic things. Number one is that every formula in Excel, I'm going to show you all these things on my spreadsheets, but I just want you to understand this thing before we dive into it, so that by the time I start practicing things, you won't be lost. So every formula on Excel should contain an equal sign. So no matter what you are typing on Excel, even if it is a formula, even if it is a formula on Excel, even if it's a formula, as long as, as long as it does not have an equals to sign, as long as it does not have an equals to sign in the front of it, as long as it doesn't have an equals to sign, it will not work. As long as it doesn't have an equals to sign, it will not work. Okay. So let me just move on. Cell references and range references are also going to be there. Operators are there. I've mentioned that functions are there already. And then in decreasing priority is just talking about the fact that a formula doesn't have to have a function before it can work. It doesn't have to have an operator before it can work. It doesn't have to have a cell reference before it can work, but it must have an equal sign before it can work. And let me just, and basically, this is a function. Anything on Excel that is a function will look like this. You have an equal sign, like I mentioned, the name of the function, and then the argument of the function. So let me just go back to my spreadsheet and let us just see what I'm talking about. I think I need to go here. Okay, fine. Now, we are gradually approaching like the climax of the class. Okay, so about Excel functions, let me ask, how many of you like do a lot of functions at work? Like your work involves functions, like you are not just using Excel to enter in the data, you actually do like some computations on it. Can you just type in yes? Let me just see if there are people like that who are in that bracket. Okay, I think I'm having some responses here. I see yes. Hey, okay, that's fine. And so, exactly, if you do not understand how the function works, you will actually waste a lot of time. And let me be very sincere with you. There are sometimes you can actually spend hours trying to figure out how a function works, and you really didn't get through it. All right. So now to the function aspect. Let me open another spreadsheet here, which is spreadsheet 3. And let us start from the beginning, the function. Now, I have explained what a function means and what a function can do. So there are two ways to enter a function in Excel. First thing is that you can enter it directly into your cell. And many of you probably know that already. So look at the cell here. You can actually enter the function directly. So once you press in equals to, it will already understand that is a function. So let us try something out. I want to add 2 plus 2. Just, you can use Excel like a calculator. So I want to add like 2 plus 2 on Excel, which is supposed to be 4. Now, if I type in that same thing without the equals to sign, look at what will happen. 2 plus 2, enter. See, this one is working, this one is not working because Excel does not recognize that this one is a function, it recognizes that this is a function. So if your equals to sign is missing, it is not going to work. Please take note of that. Another thing that you want to be aware of when you're working with this function is that you can also use the formula bar. So this is a formula bar on Excel, and basically the formula bar is just a place where you can do the same thing. So let me just say why. There are some times when you are going to be writing in lots of function, and it's going to be a very long equation or whatever you are doing. So writing it here might not really be it might not look so, it might look a bit confusing, so you might want to write it here. But whether you write it here, whether you write it here, it doesn't really matter. What matters is for your function to be correct. And another thing I want to talk about that so many people do not use is this function, this thing called insert function. But before I go there, whenever you're working with function in Excel, please make sure you are familiar with this place called the formulas. So because there are so many things that Excel can do, whether you're in finance, whether you're in data analyst. So you should be familiar with your functions at first, but even apart from that, you should also know how to look for what you want. So how many of you can see this thing on your Excel? If you are like, how many of you normally see this thing on Excel? Insert function, this FX sign. How many of you you have been seeing this thing on Excel? I will show you how it is used right now. This FX sign in Excel. Okay, I can see yes and yes, 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 yes. Good, good, good. Okay, now this FX sign is actually what will save you a lot of time on Excel. The truth is that there are also other ways to find out the function you are looking for on Excel. Maybe you are going to browse it on Google and all that, but actually, I feel like before you start browsing the internet, let it be because you didn't find what you are looking for in Excel. So let's go to FX. And then I'm going to do some tasks on Excel. Now, in a function, let us assume that I want to do some of the same things I've done in this place. So let me bring in these names here. Our names that we have been doing before. Let me copy it here. So I have done it a particular way. You can do it another way. So now this is what I'm saying. I want to like combine things together. I press in the insert function. Now, what I can do here is that I do a search. So once you press this thing, let's say I want to do like combine. You can start searching. So maybe like, let's say like text, or maybe I can write text. So like what this thing does for you is that it will try to look for the function that you want to use. Maybe somehow you have used that function before and you somehow forgot about the name. This is a good place to start. So let's say I'm looking for a function that can join. Can you see? So as I typed join, it is already recommending like some 3 functions I can use to do what I want to do. So let's go out of this place and let me just show you what I'm talking about. So I want to type in the full name. Now, for instance, so I start with my equals to sign here. And so whenever you are typing on Excel, and then you want to use your functions and your formula or whatever to calculate, you know, instead of instead of like what some people do, and especially for beginners, is that I want to join, let's say I want to, okay, let's start from a simple one. Let's say that I want to add 2 and 2 together. Let me just quickly show you what I'm talking about. So I want to add 2 and 2 together on Excel. And for me to add them together, let's say that I press in 2 and 2 equals to 2 plus 2. But since I already have the 2 on the spreadsheet, all you just need to do is to tap on it. Can you see what I'm doing here? And automatically Excel will tell you the cell address. So because I just tapped on this thing, Excel has told me that it is located in G2. I do not need to type G2 myself for it to locate it. So once I tap it, Excel has located it, and then I can do plus H2, and I get my answer on Excel easily. That is something that you should be very familiar with. So to join a text together, there are different ways to do it. Well, that one is beyond this class, but let me just show you what I'm talking about. So equals to, let's say I'm joining Peter and Mercy together. I click on this, Peter, and then I press the and. So whenever you want to join a text together on Excel, you can use the and it will be very useful for you. There are some times when, you know, I taught you about flash fill, but the truth is that flash fill can do some things, but it is very limited, especially if you want to do some very, very specific things on Excel, very, very specific. Flash fill will not work for you. So you still need to understand how to use formulas. So let us assume that I want to join them together. Then I join this and together. Now, can you see how this name is put there? Can you tell me what is wrong with my formula? Like, look at what is happening. It is writing Peter and Messi together. Like, what is wrong? Can someone just like type, like, what do you think is wrong with this formula? Okay, someone is saying no space. Exactly, no space between the names. So that is another thing that you should be aware on Excel, is that there is a way to type in, because there are so many people that you do not know that you can add a text inside a formula in Excel. So for instance, if I want to type in Peter inside a formula, it's going to give you an error, because this is not how you type in a text into Excel. So please just take note of this. Whenever you're using Excel and you want to type in a text, surround the text with quotation marks, please. Surround the text with quotation marks. And that is a tip that you will find it very useful, maybe in your workplace or whatever you're using it for. And so I put in here, Peter. I'm just showing you before I go back into my example and correct it. So Peter, so if I put it here now, can you see that it doesn't give you an error? Now, some of you told me just now that the problem in this is that it has a space that is missing. And what I need to do to correct the space is that I will go here and add the space there. So if I want to type this name, so this name is actually Peter space Mercy. And what I need to do in that aspect is I go here and then I type the space. I put that space in quotation mark. Then I join it to the last part, which is Mercy. And if I press enter, can you see it has corrected it? So because I type, now let's assume that I didn't put that quotation mark in that space. Look at what is going to happen. Let's just say I just type in the space. Can you see? It is an error on Excel. So it's not going to work, and it doesn't matter, you know, how much space you put on Excel, it would not work. So let us go and correct it. Okay, so it's not working. So what I need to do is to put in my space here. inside the quotation mark, and then it works. Okay, Mercy works. And from there, I can just do something on Excel. So another thing that so many of us are doing the wrong way on Excel, or maybe not the wrong way, but maybe you are wasting some time, is how do you copy a formula on Excel? So like you are on Excel and you are trying to copy a formula from one cell to another, and they are like in the same column on Excel. Maybe the first formula has been correctly done and you want to apply it down that column. Some of you, what you normally do is this. You'll be pasting it one by one. Control V. How many of you actually do this? Like, let me just see. Like, is there anyone that actually does it like this? Like, you will pasting it one by one wherever you need it. How many of you actually do that? How many of you actually do that? Okay. What you actually need to do in this scenario is that you go ahead and then if you look at what I'm doing here, let me show you something on Excel. There's something you call autofill on Excel. So look at your Excel, and if you look at this box here on my screen, look at this part of my screen. Can you see that? Now I want to show you something that is coming on here. Can you observe something here that whenever I move towards the bottom right, can you see that this cross is changing? How many of you are observing that? Can you observe that on my screen as I am moving my mouse? How many of you are observing what is going on my screen? Can you see what is going on? There's a reason why I'm doing that. So, so the reason is because whenever you want to copy, whenever you want to copy like something from one cell to another cell, what you need to do is that you don't need to start copying it one by one. You can actually drag it. And the only way you can drag it is whenever that thing changes, then it means that you can drag it. And so if you look at what I'm doing here, I've dragged it and I've copied it already easily. That is one way you can do it. Another way you can do it is once you find out that it has changed here, once you double click, automatically it will copy it down until it finds an empty space and it will stop. And that is exactly how you work with formulas on Excel. Exactly how you work with formulas on Excel. So how many of you actually got that aspect that I mean, like if you're actually learning this for the first time, where you have to copy your cells in a particular way that, you don't have to copy it one by one, that you can actually copy it down at once. How many of you are learning that for the first time? It will be very useful if you are working with, let's say, thousands of data where you might not really be able to start copying it from one cell to another. Okay, so it will be very useful for that. So we are going to just go on a very short break now. Let's say like a 5-minute break so that people that want to ease themselves can do that and we'll return. So we'll return um, about 12, let's say 12:55. The time here is 12:48. So let's return by 12:55. So we'll go like on a 5 minutes break. So sorry, it says, can it be done on flash view? No, it cannot be done on flash view. So like in a 5 minutes break, I'll come back. So please just quickly sort yourself out and then return to the class. Thank you. Okay, so since we can just start, wrapping up whatever we are doing. It's we have about 2 minutes before we continue. About 2 minutes. So let's just quickly get ourselves sorted and then we'll continue the class in like 2 minutes. So we should be returning now. We're about to continue the class. We're about to continue the class. Okay, so it's just about 1 minute. We are moving swiftly. So we are talking about formulas already, and I was just trying to explain. Okay, so we're talking about formulas, and I was trying to explain some of the things that we should take note when working with formulas. And then let me just give a quick recap of that. So when you are working with formulas, let me just give a quick recap of that. When you are copying, because whenever you're working with formulas, copying formulas from a place to another is very, very important. So you will always need to copy formulas. As long as you are working with formulas, you will always need to copy them. And I mentioned something here that um, you should understand how to write a text inside a formula. Because there are sometimes when you need to add a text into a formula. And the way you do that is by using quotation marks. So I give an example by using Peter, that if you type in Peter without quotation mark, it's going to give you an error. Okay, sorry, it's not a formula. Let me write equals to. So you saw my mistake here. Can you see? There is an issue with this manner of writing. So there's an issue. Okay, so my YouTube audience, thank you for following. I've been getting the feedback that we have also been following. So thank you for following. We are monitoring this space too. Okay, so like I was saying, so whenever you are working there, it is very, very advisable that you add quotation marks. You add quotation marks to it. And the quotation marks are the things that will help Excel to recognize that, okay, whatever I'm putting in is inside this thing is a formula, very easy, and then you do that. So if I put in Peter there, you can see here that it doesn't have any issues. It doesn't have any issues. So here you can see Peter Mercy, and I also told you that because I was trying to look for a formula that can do a bit of text, and so what I did here was that I just typed in join, because I would say, okay, I want to join two things together, and I am just blank. That is actually what happens to many people in Excel. Like, you actually have no idea of what am I really going to do with this. So you are kind of blank. And so that is something you can, is a starting point. So you start with go. So it is recommending three functions: let's join, this, and concatenate. So we have not used any function. I just use the formula approach. Now, let us use another approach, function approach. So, so you're welcome back. For those who are just returning, you're welcome back from the break. It was a very short break, and just to get yourself sorted out. Now, the function approach for this class, how can we do the same thing using a function? Very easy. You go ahead. Now, if you already know, like if you are a basic user in Excel, this is what many of you might want to start with. But eventually, as you do it, you might not need it again. You saw that you can write in the function directly if you know it and on Excel and it will fix it for you. But if you do not know it on Excel, there is something that you can actually do, which is this insert function. So I type it in again. So please go and try it on your own, and you see that it's solve a lot of your issues. So join. So let me use a function concatenate. For people who are using Excel 2016 to 2013, you will not have the function of text join. So if you are seeing text join here, you won't find it on your Excel. So if you can't find it on your Excel, there is nothing wrong with your Excel. It is just the version that is a bit an older version. So please don't look for it. But you should have concatenate, I think, or maybe concatenate. Use concatenate. So let's use concatenate. So this one will assist you. Now you can see this way is for beginners. So if you are a beginner, I will advise you to start this way because it would reduce the likelihood of you having errors in your formula. It will reduce the likelihood and to even explain what this part is meant for of the function and which part of the function. So let's type in here. Can you see here? So the text 2 is the space. So how do I type in the space? I put in the space in quotation mark. So you can see how it is assisting me. And then my text 3, I type in my mercy. But since mercy is already there, I just click on this place, mercy. And you can see, even before I press OK, I already have an idea of what my answer is going to look like. This is the safest way for somebody that is actually just getting, you're just really getting up into this Excel thing. Like, I will advise you that please use this approach before you start trying out things. So, okay. So you can see here, so we have the same result. How many of you, so let's get your opinion. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer insert function approach or just entering it directly? Like, which one do you prefer? Let's see from the comments. Like, I mean, like, which one do you prefer? How do you prefer things done? Do you prefer it like Excel assisting you in your function, or you actually doing it like from scratch yourself? Oh, somebody is saying function approach. Okay, yeah. Like people like easy life, soft life. A function approach, fine, fine, all right. But whichever one you prefer, just get the job done. However, I need to tell you that there is a level that you get in Excel that you cannot use a function approach because as an advanced user in Excel, you cannot really find one function that will do what you want to do. That is the truth. Let me just tell you the truth right now is that you can't find one function that will do what you want to do exactly. So you really need to, as an advanced Excel user, you need to like combine this function with this function and with this function. So you might eventually have like about 3 functions to get the job done. So in that aspect, the function approach is limited. So you still need to learn the regular approach, but for this work, it's sufficient. Okay, so that is the example. So we've seen different ways. We've seen how to do this thing using the flash fill, and we've also seen how to do this thing using the other method. And then I also want to mention about another thing that you can do with functions or formula on Excel. Now, I mentioned something about if you want to type a number series. I told you like the way you can do it. There are different ways you can do this. Different ways. When I first of all started using Excel, those times, when I was still about a fresher in Excel. I was a novice. And if I wanted to type a number series, so many of you don't really know, what God has done for you here, by being here. Is that I'll be doing something like this. I'll say this one plus one. I'll now have two. Then I'll now start dragging the thing down. So it will now start adding up, wasting my precious time. But you don't need to do that. So there's also another approach you can do. And now, before I even go ahead, there are some times that you do not need your formula to remain in Excel. Let me repeat myself. Or maybe not here. Please, I'll talk about it, but there are some times when you do not need you want to use your formula, quite all right. But at the end of the day, you do not want to keep the formula inside the spreadsheet. You just need the values from the formula. You do not need the formula itself. So there is a way to do that. And I will do an example to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So we have spent quite some time in this class, and we are getting to the final part of the class. So let me just put this here. So for instance, let's do a particular task. So in Excel, some of you might find yourself in this scenario. I have found myself in that scenario where I have a list, and in that list, I want to sort it randomly. I just want to sort it randomly, like randomly. I want to sort the list randomly. And how exactly, will I do that? To sort it in a very random manner, right? How exactly will I do that? Sorting a list in a random manner. I will show you exactly how that is done. And how that is done is that, let's assume that you have your names here. Okay, let me use something else. So let's get these numbers here. So let's do a task now. So I actually have a task that I want us to do in the class, and let's do this thing. So let's create a new worksheet, and let's do something very interesting. So we have a list of names. Let us assume that you are like a class rep. Maybe you are a supervisor in your place of work, and then you like to be very fair. You don't want to be biased. And in the fairness, you want to actually assign people into groups randomly. And you don't have time to start moving this here and moving this here. Look at how you can do something like that on Excel. So let us assume that we have these names on Excel. Okay, let's put this here. Okay, let's put this here. Uh, can you just suggest? So I need ideas of names. So let me just pick random names. So let's pick Ife. I mean George. Please, if I pick your name, it's just random. Let's do Microsoft, Amazon, Bill, Elon, Musk, or whatever names. Let me just look for three more names. I want them to be 15. Let's look for a name like Tracy, Abimbola, Joy. Okay, okay, someone is saying Tayo, okay, Doris. I want to show you something. Tayo, Chris. Okay, great. Fine. Now we have some of these names, and I want to assign them to groups. I am a supervisor, but I don't want to stress myself, because I don't want it to be, I want it to be, they are followed a particular order. Maybe this is their ID or something, and I do not want it to be like, okay, let me add something here. So let me add it like their ID. So look at what is happening here. Let me show you another skill on Excel that you need to learn. Now, whenever you do something like this, and then you double click at this part of Excel, and you double click. Now, I want it to actually change this thing to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But it is not doing like that. Why? The reason is because there are different settings whenever you click on that autofill. This is what they call autofill. Like as my mouse is here, let me show you my mouse. This part of the cell, when I double click on it, whenever I click on it and then it populates downward, there are different things that can be done. So I am the one that will specify to Excel what it should be doing in case it does not do what I ask it to do. Now, this is what I'm saying. That one is English. So you can see now that this is not what I want Excel to do. I want Excel to change this thing from 1, 2, 3. So I will go to this thing here, autofill options, and then I will change it to fill series, and then it will change it from the 111 thing to the 120. So there are some times when you do that and it doesn't give you exactly what you want. So that is why you might need to be aware of something like this, that you can change the autofill options. If you wanted to copy the cell or you wanted to fill the series, you need to be very aware of that if it is copying the cell. So before it was in copy cells, but I actually wanted to fill the series. So I'm changing it to fill series, and which has been done. So fill series. Okay. How many of you got that? Can you just type yes if you understood what I just did now? Can you just type yes? Okay, thank you for the yeses. Okay, thank you for the yeses. Okay, fine. All right. Great, great, great. All right. So quickly, now I want to arrange these people in a random manner. I want to just scatter it. What I do is that I will go to my insert function and then I'll press random. Okay, random. So random, you can use the random here, but I don't want to use this random. I have a function I can use, but I just want to show you just to as a recap. So let me just change it to rand. So there's a function here called rand. It will generate a random number between 0 and 1. And this function does not need anything to be inside. So if you want to read more about functions, Excel has a website where they explain all the different functions. So you might also want to go and check that after. In case you are using a function and you don't understand how it is used, you can check it on the Excel website. So you can see here. Now, this is something that is a downside of Excel sometimes. Now look at this formula, is random. It means that anything that happens on the spreadsheet, all the numbers will change. Now look at this thing. If I press enter, all the numbers will change again. I do not want the numbers to keep on changing. What do I do? What I will do is that I will copy it. I'll copy it and then I will go back and paste it as a value. So I will go to this paste. Then I will go to paste values and then I'll click on one of those things, paste as value. Now, what I've just done is that those things are no longer formulas again. Now they are now values. So whatever I do, it is not going to change it. It is not going to change it. It is very important for you to do that because it's not every time that the result of a particular formula, you want to keep it as the formula. There are some times that the result of a formula, you just need the value alone. You do not need the formula. So this is something you should do. So now, what do? I go to sort. So to sort on Excel, you can use maybe this data part. I prefer to pick it from here. Okay, fine. Then let's see. So A to Z, intuitively from smallest to largest, Z way from largest to smallest. So let's sort it from smallest to largest. Can you see what it has done? It has scattered the whole thing. It has scattered the whole thing, which is exactly what I want. How many of you understood what I just did now? Can you see what I've just done? And so I can now go ahead. Okay, if you understand what I just did here, can you just type yes? So I've already rearranged all these guys. Now I am the very good boss. I am a very good guy. I don't have to stress myself. And I actually was doing this thing, there was a time this thing was useful for me, and maybe it might be useful for you. So I can now assign them to a group. So let's say 1, 2, 3. Now look at this thing, 1, 2, 3. So I want to assign them to 3 groups, all of them. So what I do is that this 1, 2, 3, I copy it down. But look at what is happening here. Now, the other time, I did not want it to copy it as 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I wanted it to fill it as a series. But this time around, I do not want it to fill it as a series. I want it to actually copy the numbers. So I go back and then I change it to copy cells. And it has copied the cells. So what I just do now is I can now go back and sort this one. And guess what? I have all of them in their groups. So in group 1, I have all these people here in group 1. Let's give them a color. All these people here, I have them in group 2. Let's give them a color. Let's give them color. Let's give them color green. And then in group 3, I have all these guys. Let's give them another color. How many of you understand what we just did here now? And so this is actually a very, so like something as small as, so this is what Excel formulas do. So whenever you think about Excel formulas, don't always think about it like you have to do a very serious, because there are some people like whenever they think about formulas, maybe because they were kind of very scared of mathematics as students. So whenever they think of formulas, whatever comes to their mind is like something very arithmetic. Not really. It doesn't have to be something very, very arithmetic. Even something as basic as this, you can accomplish it by using an Excel formula. And so if you understand this example, can you just type yes? I want to give us another very, very interesting example. I think some of you would like to see this next example. Very interesting example that some of you like to see here. Great. Now, so let us, no, let me even find out, like, for those of you who are in the academia, let us do something very interesting. So, I remember when I was in secondary school, okay, many years ago, when I was in secondary school, whenever they grade us, one of the things that make our results, some of these people is that whenever they want to give you what you scored, A, B, C, and then in fact, let's forget secondary school, even universities, for some of us who have graduated, or maybe you are still in school right now, sometimes we find out that although it doesn't really happen, but there are sometimes, have you found out that some people will say that, I got 60 something, but you gave me this grade. But this is the grade, this is not the grade I was supposed to get because my score is not the grade. A lot of funny things happen, and some people are like, okay, this thing. So how do you avoid such type of issues? Is by actually using something like Excel. So I'm going to teach us the basic one. The advanced one is beyond the scope of this class. It's beyond the scope of this class. And, we are still going to have an advanced class. It's going to be a paid class. So for people who are for the advanced class might, those are the people that is the part of the advanced, but let's do the basic one for now. So let's assume that I have like 100 students, or let's say 20 students. Let's be very fair, 20 students, and matric number 10130401001. So 1001, then I'll go here. If you remember what we've done, so everything I've done in the past, I will start using them now, assuming that you already know them. So if you don't know them, please, if you're on YouTube, you can always watch at your own pace, or maybe you can go back later and check some of those previous parts so you can understand where we are coming from. So because we have done quite a lot already. So I go to series, and then I step it by 1, and the stop value is 130401002, let's say 1024 columns. Okay. So I've generated random matric numbers for students. The next thing I want to do is that I want to just give them random scores between, let me say, like the worst student in the class. Let's say the worst student in the class scored like 30 over 100. So this is like matric number. So this is matric number. And this is score. So the worst student in the class, or the, let's say like the worst student in the class scored, let's say 30 over 100, and then the best student in the class scored 90 over 100. So there's a function on Excel called rand between. You can figure that out yourself. Sorry, I said 30 and 90. So, I mean, I don't have time to start thinking of numbers. So because I don't want the numbers to start changing, I will paste it back as values. Now, grade. So I want to know if they passed or they failed. So anybody that scores below 50 has failed. And anybody that scores above 50 has passed. I mean, for my own university where I graduated from University of Lagos, that is actually very particular when they are grading those general GNS, we call it our own GSTs. Some people call it GNS courses. It's either you pass or you fail. There's no A, B, C, or D. So let's assume that it's a general course. So you either pass or fail. So in Excel, there's something we call conditional formulas. So that one is beyond the scope of this class, diving very specific into how the formula works, but I'll just apply it just for the general formula sake and point to some things there. So now I'll press on if. Now there is something I want you to observe. Please pay attention at this point. Please pay attention at this point. There's something you need to see here. If you look at my screen, you will see that value if true and value if false is inside a square bracket. How many of you can see that? Can you type in yes? If you can see like value if true and value if false in a square bracket, how many of you can actually see that? That square bracket. Now, okay, I can see yes, 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 yes. Now, I'll tell you the meaning of that square bracket. I'll tell you the meaning of that square bracket. And it is not only for this formula, like by the time you start working with different functions, you just start observing. I mean, it's not the programming, actually, it's not the programming aspect. Like whenever you start working with functions, like just start observing for square brackets. You see that there are some functions that have square brackets, there are some functions that do not have square brackets. Now, this is what it means. Whenever you see a square bracket on Excel, it means that that part of the function is optional. So it means that, like, for instance, there is already a default value. It means that whether you put in something or you do not put in anything there, Excel already has something that is the default for that part of the formula. So in this place, if you look at this part here, so it means that in this if statement, if this if has three parts, it has logical test, value if it is true, and value if it is false. It means that if I type in just logical tests in this formula, it is enough for this formula to work. So whether I type in value if true or whether I don't type in value if true, it doesn't matter. The formula will still work because there's already a default value in it. Do you understand that? Can you just type yes if you just understand what I just explained? Good. Now let's just get straight into the thing. So I want to just grade this student. So I'm saying that if the score is greater than or equal to 50, I say that the value if it is true. So you can see that as I press the comma, you see that that bold has left logical test, has gone to value if true. So that is also for you to know which part of your formula you are currently working on. And you can click and go back to wherever part you are working on. So value if true, remember I said the way you can put in a text into a formula is by using the quotation mark. So I'll say pass. And the value if it is false, I'll write fail. So enter. And then I can just do that. So this is just a way, and then I've graded all of them. So I know the people that failed, and then I know the people that passed very, very easily, instead of having to, write it one by one. And then, another thing that Another reason why you should be using formula is that let us assume that something now happened in the future, and then the score now changed. Maybe the lecturer did say, "Oh, I made a mistake. Oh, bring your script," and then one thing changed, and you change the score because you didn't use the formula in the first place. You would have some inconsistency. So by having a practice of using formula, it's a way of avoiding inconsistencies in Excel. It's a way of avoiding inconsistencies. Very quickly, when I was doing the registration, I found out that some students, some people said they are not, like they don't have a personal PC. So this is just, I'll do that in like, I think 3 minutes, 3 minutes or 2 minutes. Just quickly do that. So, so like, so like, data experts, we, apart from just some things like this where we do, we also try to help you, get like recommend some of the right gadgets, which we also have available, and we do distribution. And so, like, if you are working with Excel, I need to just tell you that you do not need to use an high-end system. An high-end system, you need something very, very light. And so some of these things that we have available, you can, we'll drop the contact there. If it's something you're interested in, we can have that discussion outside the class. So you need something light, not something high-end, although we have high-end, but you might not need that, so you can use something light, like probably an airline book. There are so many of them. So the name doesn't matter. The specs are the things that you should focus on. Something as small as 4 gig RAM is very okay. You don't need something as 16 gig RAM and the likes. Something like this, you know, something like this, or something like this, something very light. You don't really need something so heavy when you are working with Excel. So if it's something that you are interested in, you want to upgrade, it's something that you can reach out to us, and then we can discuss how you can get it and how we can ship it down to wherever you are in Nigeria. Okay, so back to the class. So let's go back to the class. Okay, so back to the class. All right, so now, so we stopped at working with grading a student. And so that one is just to show you the power of conditional formatting, conditional formulas and functions that you can do. Another thing that, so many people, I have friends, and then they'll just call me like, "Oh, Tiwa, I have this issue at work, and this and this, I'm stuck here." I mean, I get some of those calls sometimes. And I remember a particular one. It's very interesting, and I think you will enjoy this. Have you observed that there are some times when let me see if you have experienced that there are some times when you have a phone number, like you have a data and then you have phone numbers, and then there are some people that you see that their phone number looks like this. Okay, let's get this thing out. Let's use our normal example. Let's go back to this place. Our normal example here. Okay, so our normal example here, and then let's put phone number. Okay, so the phone number here is, so let's say the person puts 0703 154 7885, 0703 569 3358, 081 547 3339. And then this person is writing 234 703 468 7895. And this person is using another style to write his own phone number. Different styles of phone number. Let's say different styles of phone number, so you can reduce and increase. So you can see what I'm doing here on Excel. You can change the decimals if you want. So now this is where I'm going. So you have different phone numbers style on Excel, and then you are confused. Now you have how many records? Let's say you have about 2,000 records. I mean, this thing I'm talking about, like, it was actually a real life issue. Somebody actually called me, and the person was a bit like, I don't know how to go about this thing. Now, this is exactly, how you can go about solving that particular challenge. It is something that we are currently experiencing, and how you do that is very easy. So first things first, you need to work with your conditional formulas. The conditional formulas is going to assist you. So in this aspect now, uh, let me just show you something very. So this is how I solve the problem for the person, and this is why you need to know your formulas very well. So let me say that let's say this is corrected phone number, or let's even find out, like, how many of you have actually experienced this thing before? Maybe, so I'm not like saying something that is a problem that is not a realistic problem. How many of you have actually experienced something like this before, that you have phone numbers and one phone number is looking like this, another phone number is looking like this, and you are trying to like make everything look like exactly the same way. Now, we have talked about how to enter phone numbers correctly, but now you are not the one that worked on the spreadsheet. Somebody else has messed the whole thing up, and your own work is to try to correct it. Okay, so has anybody actually experienced that before? Okay, maybe if you have not, one thing that you can do about that is you can use like a formula. Okay, somebody is saying, yes, I've experienced that before. Let's say like, if. So a formula, I mean, how many digits is a phone number in Nigeria supposed to look like? I think the phone number is supposed to look like 11. Great. So we're going to do a test. So if the number, now this thing might not be exactly it might not exactly work for you. Okay, 11. It might not exactly work for you. It depends on the nature of your problem. But I am assuming that this is how the problem presented itself in your own case, like it was in that person's case. Let's say the number is less than 11. So if the number is less than 11, obviously there's a problem somewhere. There's a problem somewhere. If the number is less than 11, okay, then this is what I want you to do. I want you to add 0 to the number. Now, I have taught you something about using joining of text together, and we are going to use that here again. 0 and this thing, add it together. Okay. And if it is false, just leave it like that. Now, so this formula, let me just explain it to you in simple, plain language. What I've done here is that I'm telling Excel that, look at this formula. If the number is less than 11 digits, add 0 to the front. Or I said add 0 to the front. Sorry, add 234 to the front. Add 234 to the front. We are all assuming that it is like a Nigerian international line. But if it is already, so I'm assuming that once it is more than 11 digits, so it is all an assumption. Once it is more than 11 digits, it is already looking another way, which is how I want it to be. And okay, if it is less than 11 digits, okay, okay, let me use concatenate, sorry. Or let me use concat. Okay, I'll concat, and then I'll concat it with this. Oh, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. So, sorry, I'm just trying to correct something here. Sorry, let me just add this to it. Oh, sorry. You know what just happened here? So what just happened here is very simple. So my formula is wrong. So what my formula was saying is that I said if it is less than 11, what I was actually supposed to do is that if the count of the digit is less, I was wondering why it wasn't working. So if the length of, sorry, so just bear with me. So if the length of this digit is less than 11, so look at what is happening here. The length, so there's a function in Excel that can find the length of a figure for you. So you can actually do that. So maybe you can just write here length. Maybe length or something. Maybe you can just check insert function length. So all these things are there for you to use. So this is what I use, LEN. So you can just explore these things yourself. So I'm saying to Excel that, see, if the length of this thing is less than 11, I know that the number is wrong. And because the number is wrong, I want it to be changed. So if you look at that, Excel has changed it easily for me. It has changed it very easily. So the reason why this number is showing like this is because it's thinking that it is a number and not a text. So anyway, that is formatting issues, which is not the purpose of this formula. But if you get what I just did here now, is that there was a particular number that wasn't looking correct, and I just used formulas to adjust it. And so once again, whenever you're working with the Excel, when you are working with formulas, it doesn't have to be numbers like maybe 2 plus 2, and maybe you're adding this plus this. Like, I want you to be very creative, in the way you use Excel. And just as I've said, for people who might actually need to start practicing on your own. So let me just tell you, one of the things that helped me and which I would advise is a lot of practice, is that whenever I learn something new on Excel, like in a class like this, or maybe I see somebody like a colleague on it, I try to replicate that thing. I try to see if I can do it, because so many of you, if you don't practice this thing within like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, you might not remember a lot of these things again. So please ensure you practice. If you don't have a PC, try to get one. If you probably need recommendation, you can contact us. It's one of our services we render at Data Expert. We also deal with PCs. So, PCs are, laptops, very affordable. So you can get across to us. We can help you with that. Or whichever way, just ensure that, you are really getting something done. And so now, where does all this thing round up? The whole essence of what I've been saying here is that, so whenever you're working with Excel, one thing which is like you need to know is that you need to know your shortcut very well. And so we mentioned a bit of shortcuts here in this class, and please ensure that you use them appropriately. That's one. Secondly, you need to understand the fact that you cannot know all the formulas in the world. In fact, Excel has, so somebody is asking that this video recording of this class will be sent. Yes, it might not, I mean, we will send the YouTube link. It's already on YouTube. So as soon as we end this live stream, you can go back to YouTube and rewatch it. I mean, it is already this. Instantly you will find it on YouTube, so you can go back and practice some of these things that we have talked about. Another thing I talked about is the fact that I've talked about shortcuts. You cannot know all the formulas in Excel, and because Excel is trying to stay in the business, they keep on adding new and new formulas. So if you do not even understand what formulas is all about, I've talked about optional argument, the composition part of the formula, how to apply the formula, and all those things. if you don't even understand it, means that if they release a new formula in Excel, you will not even be able to follow the trend. It's another issue that you might want to avoid. And then even your workflow and everything, and then being creative about it are some of the things that you want to really understand on Excel. And maybe it's at this point, I would just like to start taking questions. I want to take questions. So please, Mr. Jeremiah, the questions from YouTube, let's start taking them from YouTube. Just send them directly to me. And then from Zoom, we can just start taking your questions. So we our time is quite fast spent, but it will be very good. We answer one or two questions, a few questions, which might also be something that some of you are already facing a challenge that if I answer the question, it might answer some other questions that you might have or you might have experienced. And so let us get that. Okay, so please, I think for those in the Zoom room, you can, if you have a question, you can just raise up your hand and then you'll be unmuted. If you have a question, please just go straight to the point. Just go straight to the point in your question. And for those on YouTube, just type it in. It's all the same. We'll get the question sorted out. Okay, so somebody is asking a question here that, can I import Google Sheet into Microsoft Excel to edit? Well, yes and no. You can import Google Sheets into Microsoft Excel as read-only, but you cannot import, you can't import, it's kind of beyond the scope of this class. I will have shown you one or two things, but you cannot edit, you can't edit the Google Sheet from outside the Google environment. So no, you cannot. So if you are working with Excel, so Microsoft Excel also has its own cloud services and all that. So you can, you can actually export, or maybe you might want to download it from the Google, download it as an Excel file and work on it. But that live thing is not actually possible. It's not actually possible. So, so please just let me have your questions. So somebody was saying something, someone just asked another question that, highlighting on Excel, many times when I highlight, I notice that the other details in the remaining cells of the column are highlighting. And maybe I don't really get, I didn't really get what you're trying to describe here. So somebody is saying that, I'm just reading out the question about highlighting on Excel. So please send in your questions now. We are wrapping up within like some few minutes from now, very few minutes we have left on this meeting. So we are rounding up. Please, if you have your question, this is the time to ask it. About highlighting on Excel, many times when I highlight, I notice that the other details in the remaining cells of the column I'm highlighting changes to the detail in the first cell of that column. Maybe there's something you are not doing right. So you say when you highlight in the remaining cells of the column, changes to, like once you want to highlight, what do you mean, like select that you're calling highlight? Because the words you are using to might also be the one that is not making it clear. Okay. Okay, so let me just, so maybe, but if you want to highlight or maybe select on Excel, I've said something about, using your shift. Once if you actually want to select precisely, I will actually advise that you use your shift to select precisely, as long as it is within the selected or highlighted or whatever part. It is going to stick to it. It's not going to go outside of it. It is going to stick to it. It's not going to go outside of it. So the part that you need to work on, if you want to be sure that things don't spill out or spill over, is the part of ensuring that you select appropriately. Now, somebody is asking another question here. Sorry, Mr. Jeremiah, are we having questions from YouTube? Do you want to unmute? So we can just start. Okay, so somebody is asking, can you please explain how find and select tool work in case you're working on a large spreadsheet? Okay, very easy. Now, find and select on Excel is just a way of, looking for things in the spreadsheets. So let's go back to this place. So for example, now, let us say that I'm looking for something on Excel and I have an idea of what that thing is, but I don't know where exactly it is. You can just press Ctrl F to find, and you can look for whatever you're looking for. However, one advice I'll give is that whenever you are using find and select or find and replace or whatever, this part is what the person is talking about. From your home tab, this find and select, it is advisable that you first of all select the boundary of where that thing is so that you're not going to waste your time, especially if you have a very large data. Like for instance, now I am looking for the name of a department. I know that it can never be in age, and I know that it can never be in business travel. So I don't need to waste my time just finding it randomly. All I just need to do is that I will just go ahead and select exactly what I need to select. And then I now find it. So whenever it is now finding it, it will find it within that place. So that is something that you should take note of. So so that way it is going to save you a lot of time when you are finding and you are selecting. When you are finding and selecting. Okay. Okay, so sorry. So please, if you have a question, you can just unmute and just ask a question.
Yes, I'm saying that we don't have any questions from YouTube.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Yeah. So basically, that is how it works. The find and select. I think I've answered your question. So somebody is saying something. Everything changes to Mercy after I so the workbook showing on your screen now. Sorry, can you name what is the name of the workbook? Sorry, just very quickly. The workbook. What is the name of the worksheets? I think you meant worksheets. No workbook. So the workbook showing on your screen now. Let's say I highlight the surname column. Everything changes to Mercy after I highlight. I think sheet 3. Someone is saying sheet 3. Okay, so you mean highlight? Do you mean like when you highlight like this? Or I think it might also be the way you highlight. If you highlight, you don't highlight from the corner, because if you highlight from this place, everything will change to Mercy. So Excel is interpreting it as copy. That's why I was saying something about whenever you are copying here, make sure that it has not changed from this. Look at this cross that you are seeing on the screen now. That is the cross that is meant for copying. If it changes to this one, it is no more copy. It is no more, sorry, that is the cross for highlighting. If it changes to this one, it will start copying. So that is the mistake you are making, sir. So corner highlight, it makes, it will make it all the same. But if you do it this way, so what you should have done is you should have gone like this. But you should have gone like this. It will have copied, it will have highlighted it. But if you go like this, it will do another thing entirely. So that is the issue you are having, Mr. Philip. So is there any other question? All right. And so so this is actually we have barely scratched the surface on this Excel basic. I can tell you that there are lots and lots of things that you can do on Excel. There are lots and lots of things that you can do on Excel, and this we have barely scratched the surface. Just as the class described, you know, you just as the class described, it's a beginner guide, and so it's expected that with what you have learned in this class, you should start thinking about more advanced things that you can do on Excel that you can really, improve some of the things you are doing. And so you might start looking at formulas. There are a lot of things on Excel that we cannot touch, because they are quite deep on their own. We didn't touch about pivot tables. We didn't touch about the visualization. We didn't talk about, large data analysis and all those things, which are like in the advanced part of it. And for your information, we'll be having an advanced class. Is just for a select few who are interested. It's going to be very intensive. This one is just like few hours class, but that one is going to be into weeks. It's going to be like a boot camp online, and it's going to be paid. Uh, it's going to be paid, and for those that are interested, to reach out to you, and so just take down the details on the flyer. If you have registered, we'll also send it by email, the information about the class. It's an advanced class, and it's going to be for 4 weeks, on Saturdays for 4 weeks. And it's going to just be like it's a very small token of 20,000 naira for 4 weeks. But during the class, it is going to be intensive. During the week, I mean, from Monday to Friday, you are going to be filled with having to do a lot of your own tasks, a lot of your work, a lot of assignments, a lot of projects. We are going to be doing projects. And then on the weekend is when we come together and we review, and then we advance, and we keep going on like that for like 4 weeks. And I can guarantee you that after 4 weeks, you are going to have a lot of things to talk about on Excel. And even start applying for roles like data analyst and all those things. And for people who also want to go from Excel into other things, it will actually help you to have that foundation of data analytics, because you see, data analytics is a knowledge on its own. Microsoft Excel is a software. And so those ideas are some of the things that will be passing across in the class. So when you saying that, how do I merge information on two sheets? Well, that is an advanced part of Excel. There's actually something called consolidate a spreadsheet. Excel consolidate a spreadsheet. You can find it here. If you look at this place, you can see consolidate spreadsheet. Like there's a way you can actually merge information on multiple sheets, but it's actually beyond the scope of this class. It's called like consolidated spreadsheet. So it's beyond the scope of this class. We won't be able to talk about it. And so I really want to appreciate everyone for joining, for the publicity, with for staying through the class. It's been a long one, but it was meant to be intensive. It would have been shorter than this, but it seems we had a lot of things to cover. And some of the information that was passed in the class is sent to the email also, so that you can respond adequately. At the same time, we also, I know some of the spreadsheets that we used for our practice in the class, I will also send it to you, so that at least you can see the formulas directly. So in case you were trying these things on your own and you didn't get it, you'll be able to. And for those people that joined on YouTube, we are going to drop the link in the comment section, so that of the YouTube, probably after the video is off live, so that you can, give us your email address, because that's how we can send it to you. So you can register. I mean, so we can give us your email address. We can send some of this information to you. At least we'll still be attending to that for within the next 1 week, where we can still get in some of those new information. So we can send you some of the information that was useful in this class, and some of the things that we have done. You can actually go back and review it. So please, I will encourage you. The class was fast-paced and it was deliberate. So many of these things that we have done, is supposed to be expanded for a longer time like this. So you might not get as much as you plan to on this review, but I will encourage you to go back to the YouTube video. We are going to send a link to those people who might not have it already and look at it again so that you can practice it slowly with your PC. And finally, okay, somebody say E40. No, it is not correct. It's not correct. Someone say E40 is pass or fail. So by the time we send the spreadsheet, the formula is not correct. You should have done something. So finally, let me just correct this mistake from somebody. So uh, this is the formula. If this, I will type it inside. So the formula is supposed to look like this, not like this. I mean, not exactly like this, but the 40 is greater than something, something. So you can go back and check it and see. Sorry, let me just send it to you. You can go back and check it. So the formula is not correct, sir. Okay. And so please go back and look at it. So like somebody is saying that I tried the formula, it wasn't correct. So these are some of the issues we might have that we will need you to go back and look at the video. So thank you so much for attending and for staying true. It's been a long time, and some of you actually stayed true that a lot of time, and really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So the remaining information, please look at your email and expect an email from us on the information regarding the class. And if you have not joined our WhatsApp community also, please join our community so that other videos, which might not really be this kind of classes, but how to do this and how to do that, and some of the things that you might want to pay attention to while working on this. So please join us, our community, to stay in touch. So the way you can join us and stay in touch is by joining our WhatsApp community, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and looking at, maybe you can go back and reach out to us by email. It's also a way to get back and keep in touch. And so thank you so, so much. We are so grateful. All right, so we have come to the end of this class, and we'll just be closing the meeting now. So I'm stopping the live stream now from YouTube. I'm stopping the live stream. Okay, thank you so much.